The best of money matters. Wealth Tracker.
Welcome to the Wealth Tracker, where we dive into the uncharted territories of niche investment strategies that promise to redefine wealth. Hello, I'm Hongbin, Jeong. Now think space industry, and you might be forgiven for thinking of astronauts, rocket launches, and the tourism ventures of billionaires. It is less recognized for its significant role as the hidden utility underpinning our daily lives and economy. But did you know that you can actually invest in this space? As the space industry rapidly evolves, the possibility of turning the vast expanse of the universe into a profitable market is no longer science fiction. From satellite technology to space tourism, astronaut mining to commercial space flights, the potential for investors to capitalize on this emerging frontier is immense. And thus, there is potential for growth in this sector. In fact, space may not just be the final frontier, but the next big investment opportunity. So to find out more, joining me now is Ornella Hernandez, who is the presenter at Moniify Playbook. Ornella, welcome to the show.
Hi, Hongbin. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
To talk about space.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm super excited to talk about space as well. Well, Ornella, the global space sector is now worth over $469 billion with, 77% accounted for by the commercial market, and analysts project future growth of up to 11% per annum. What's driving this interest in space investments? How is the space economy evolving?
Yeah, so there's a few reasons. The space economy is evolving beyond just the traditional government-led missions. And now the private sector is really leading more commercial ventures. And there's two main reasons for that. So getting to space, the infrastructure, aka rockets, right, is now more affordable, and they're reusable rockets. And this is largely in part thanks to SpaceX. So because of this, now there's more interest in space tech. So that means satellite communications and even space tourism. And, the NASA in the U.S. is going back to the moon, so lunar exploration in a couple years. And then even there are companies looking at asteroid mining. So all these things are possible again, thanks to those two things. It's more affordable and reusable. I think also a lot of this investment has to do with people wanting to solve problems here on Earth. So I think that the space economy is very linked to the Earth's economy.
I see. Well, given the projected growth of the space sector to expand up to 11% per annum, why might one consider investing into this space?
Yeah, so because now the barrier to entry for a startup is considerably less, there are so many more startups all over the world, not just the U.S. and Europe, right? But China, Japan, UAE, and India that are really focusing on this idea of space tech. So it's beyond just getting to orbit, but refueling and debris removal. So that's when satellites, they break down basically. Earth observation for agriculture. There's so many other industries now that on Earth that we're kind of leveraging space tech for. So because all these startups are now popping up, there's a lot more VC interest in those startups. But to be honest, I wouldn't say there's dozens and dozens of VCs looking into this. It's still small, it's still early, but the numbers are substantial.
Right. Well, other than startups here, what role do companies like SpaceX or Blue Origin kind of play in, shaping the future of space investments? Yeah,
so thanks to SpaceX, I would say largely SpaceX, they've been able to get to Earth's orbit in a more affordable way. So we've been able to launch rockets and satellites into orbit again. They've decreased the cost, and this has actually made a huge difference because that's the first step, right? We can send whatever we want to space, satellites, but we still need a rocket to get there. So SpaceX has even, for example, the UAE government recently launched a nano satellite into space. This happened 2 weeks ago or a bit over a week ago. And it was the UAE government that funded this, but it still happened with a SpaceX rocket in the U.S. So that's the case for SpaceX. And then when it comes to Blue Origin is actually older than SpaceX, but they have been focusing on space tourism. So again, now that it's easier to get to space, we will see a lot more space tourism opportunities for people interested in the near future.
I see. I see. Well, then, should investors then opt to invest in these companies like SpaceX? Or are there other investment vehicles that we can tap into this space industry? I mean, what are the main investment vehicles available for those interested in the space sector?
Yeah, so investing directly in SpaceX is tough, and other companies like it because they're mostly still private. So you'd have to have considerable funds to do so. But there are other options. So I always recommend exchange-traded funds, ETFs, that focus on the space economy so that you can get more exposure to the sector without betting on like a single company. And I do have to say that a lot of these ETFs focus more on U.S. and Europe-based companies.
I see. Well, one way to tap into these industries, as you mentioned, is through these exchange-traded funds or ETFs. Are there any current ETFs that offer high growth opportunities? I mean, what are some ETFs investors consider?
Yeah, so I would recommend 3 to consider. The first one is ARC Space Exploration and Innovation ETF, or ARC-X. So they focus space exploration mostly. And then there's also Procure Space ETF, UFO for short, which invests mostly in satellite communications. And then there's also the Spider Kensho Final Frontiers ETF, or ROKT. And it just offers a more balanced way to say, or you're spreading your risk if you invest in these ETFs. So I think if you're starting out, it's the best way to do so.
I see. Well, it seems like there are different or various sectors within the space industry people can invest in. But what other sectors within the space industry kind of like offer, the highest potential for growth in the coming decades?
Sure. So, the focus, I told you, has now been just making launches cheaper and more reliable, right? So that's the foundation for all other advancements. I mean, just for example, like even Toyota, like the car company, has even invested in startups focused on rockets. And this happened again very, very recently in the last month. So that's still the first step. But because of this, then the next growth areas will shift to, I think, traveling like between planet and lunar bases. Right now we have the Earth space station, but we want eventually like a lunar base. And then also asteroid mining. So that means extracting precious minerals and elements from asteroids. So these developments, I think, are still a long way away, but they're definitely up. There are people working on this already, so exciting opportunities currently for that.
Right. Well, how does the space industry then differ from traditional industries in terms of investment opportunities and risks?
Well, the cost of entry is for the startups, right, is much higher, I think. So the number of companies building in the sectors is smaller. And think of it kind of like when you're building an app and you're still relying on the underlying platform. So Apple, for example, if you're building software, you're still relying on AWS, Amazon Web Service, to host it. Like when it comes to space, that underlying foundation or infrastructure is still the rocket. So that has still been the priority for a long time. And as soon as now we've very recently been able to make these vehicles, this infrastructure cheaper and more affordable. So now we're seeing a lot of more startups trying to innovate beyond that. It's still early days, I would say, compared to other industries.
I see. Well, Ornella, can you also explain the potential financial benefits of space-based resources, such as, asteroid mining, and what kind of companies are leading the way in this area?
Yeah, so asteroid mining, it could have the potential to be a very lucrative business, especially if we're able to extract rare metals. There's nickel, there's platinum, there's cobalt, which is really essential for the electronics that we use, right? So the chips that we make, and even for renewable energy infrastructure. So again, we're trying to solve problems on Earth, right? But we're using resources outside of Earth. So there are some companies that are already pioneering in this field specifically. So we've got planetary resources, deep space industries as well. But this is challenging. They're exploring this now, but again, I don't think this is going to be super profitable anytime soon. Right. But there are a lot of advancements so far, especially thanks to AI and robotics. Yeah.
Well, speaking of profitable, overall then, what kind of returns can investors realistically expect from space-related investments? And how do these compare to other emerging sectors like AI or biotechnology?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have specific numbers. I would say that there are substantial returns in the near future because there are very important milestones coming up. So the next big milestones, I'd say, are a NASA and SpaceX launch planned return to the moon by 2027. And then eventually a mission to Mars. So I think these events could then trigger like parabolic growth for the sector. So that's when investors who get in now might start seeing really big returns because these moments will drive the interest and continued investment in the industry. So again, it's like high risk, high return, but it is risky because again, like there's dangers involved with this type of travel. So it could go both ways.
I see. And before we let you go here in Ornella, what are some of the most promising areas in the space industry that investors should pay attention to right now? What will you be looking out for?
Sure. So the main metrics are the number of annual launches and how affordable these launches actually are. So if the costs are actually dropping, then that means long-haul space travel is more viable. So that's when we can start seeing more trips to the moon, more trips to other planets, potentially like Mars, the next mission. And then I would also look at areas like satellites, especially the micro and the nano satellites. This could be for better internet connectivity and for like Earth, observing Earth basically. So that's like for weather, for mapping, for GPS. And then, of course, space tourism. So if you're interested in going to space, then I would maybe look at Blue Origin for that. So, yeah, reusable rockets, lunar missions are all on the horizon.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ornella, for your time and your insights today.
Yeah, thank you, Hongbin. This was fun.
Thank you. That was Ornella Hernandez, who's a presenter at Moniify Playbook. This has been the Wealth Tracker with me, Hongbin Jeong.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.